Yeah. I'm very data focused. I like to start on a quantitative level and then build on the qualitative level. I think that that's kind of an interesting approach in that I don't come in there like guns firing with hot, crazy, cool, sexy ideas. I like to look at all the data. I like to really listen to the team. Everybody on the team has a unique perspective that they're able to bring about the product, the service, the company. And I take all of that, I synthesize it, and then we kind of lay down, like I said, that messaging framework. Like, what are the ground rules about like what are we, who are we, for who, etc. And then that for me is like when the magic really happens, where like that creative level comes in, and that's when I can start to create the spicy kind of headlines, taglines, whatever. And
Hello, I'm Carrie Gard, and welcome back to Back on Track. We are here today to talk about so many things. I can't wait to unpack all that has to do with AI and for founders of growing your marketing, and from somebody who really understands the engineering side of what you all put into your product to then get it out into the world. I'm so excited. Marlena, welcome to the show.
hello, thank you.
So pumped to have you here. Before we get into the weeds of creative debt and other topics that we're going to unpack, we're going to start with a little word association to clear the air and give people time to join us. If you are here, say hello and feel free to join on in. We'd love to hear your input as well. I am paying attention to the comments. All right, Marlene, you ready?
I am always.
All right. I'm going to throw out three common terms, and I just want your immediate, unfiltered reaction.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous, but let's do it.
You got this. You got this. All right. Turning chaos into clarity.
Oh, such an AI trope. ChatGPT all the way. Someone just put in like, what? Give me a headline for my website.
Yep.
Boo. Two thumbs down is my reaction.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Fractional head of sales and marketing.
Oh, that's a great role to hire for if you don't actually know what you need and you are looking for this person to fail because they can't possibly do both. No disrespect to anyone who is tackling both, but there are such distinct uh, areas of expertise, both executional and strategic. I think it's really difficult to get both in one person very well. It's tough. I also think that you know one of one of the things I always kind of laugh about is like you can get a degree in marketing, like you can actually go to college. Like there's a whole discipline around it. So like why people think that they can mash it into just sales and expect one human being to get it all done is beyond me. I think that's really difficult, really distinct skill sets, complementary but distinct.
Absolutely. Uh, as a marketer myself, also founder of a company stepping into a sales seat, it
Hmm.
is just a different ball game. It is, and I gotta say, as a marketing mindset, as stepping into a sales mindset is not. The struggle is real. The
I
struggle.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that I have immense respect for sales, and that's why I don't think that you can mash both into
Agreed.
two and do well. I think you can
Yes,
hobble along, but yeah, they're distinct for a reason.
absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Last one: brand awareness.
Brand awareness. This is a critical step when you are emerging into the market with a new product or solution. And there are specific steps and fundamentals that you should have in place in order to establish brand awareness. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen with a couple of ads. There's a systematic foundation that needs to be laid down in order to start to chip away at that top of the funnel.
Let's start there while we're here. Why not? Right?
Yeah, let's go.
Because I think the landscape is shifting under our feet, like as we speak, and AI answers, AEO, answer engines, and the like are really taking over. And search in general is getting disrupted in a big way.
Hmm.
And more people are building categories as well. I feel like brand awareness is about to have a heyday.
Yes, there's definitely a resurgence in the way we think about it, talk about it, and measure it.
Yeah. Tell me more about the measurement piece because I feel like marketers get it, but founders are scared of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there needs to be some grace in this area with how quickly the landscape is changing and the way people are discovering brands now and solutions and products and companies. Typically, when someone is Googling, they already know about your solution and they're probably looking you up or they're looking up similar solutions. When they're accessing something like an LLM like ChatGPT, for example, they're exploring a category and they're looking at how ChatGPT has defined that category. So there's a lot of different tactics, complementary tactics, but important fundamental tactics that you really need to think about, like how are you presenting yourself online, everywhere, from your website to every single source that cites you. Are you talking about yourself in a consistent way that LLMs can understand what you do and then categorize you correctly and then actually present that information to someone who's in that buying mindset? So you have that going on. And then in terms of the actual measurement piece that you asked about, I think that there's a lot of things that there's a lot of metrics that work together. So are you actually driving traffic to your website? That is important. But also, we're seeing that the AI overviews that you're seeing, like at the top of Google search results, are getting eyeballs, but not clicks. So you might be appearing there, but no one's actually clicking through. So it kind of behooves you to be in a lot of different channels, testing a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
strategies, and appearing multiple times because a bunch of studies show that someone needs to see your brand at least 7 times before they actually click through and engage with you. So think about all of those places that someone needs to see you, see the logos, see the brand, see some messaging from you before they actually decide to engage. And there's a lot of work that needs to go into that might not have a clean attribution. You might not be able to cleanly say, oh, this person typed in this, clicked this, they came into the funnel, they requested a sales demo. It's not like that anymore. It's a very it's a much more disparate type of a buyer journey. Unless you have really honed in on your machine and you're showing up in GEO the way you need to, your website is fully optimized, like everything has been optimized and you're just ticking away. Great, you're in a great place, but most companies aren't there.
I feel like even if you start to get there, then the ground shifts again. And
Yeah, yeah.
so it's always something you're going to be, attribution's always something we are all chasing. I
Mhm.
would say for the way that I look at attribution and how I think about visibility and the impact on that of the brand from a pipeline perspective, my favorite thing has always been keyword volume in terms of brand. Your brand terms are more people searching and trying to
Mhm.
understand your brand terms. And you can visually see that in the LLMs through Google Search Calendar and your impressions going whoop.
Mhm.
And if you have SEMrush, we just upgraded our SEMrush to the AI aspect of it. It's actually really magical. You can see the exact prompts that people are
Mm.
searching for.
Mhm.
And so if you're seeing your name come up where people are starting with you, wanting to know reviews and things like that, that's a great way to know, okay, I'm showing up in
Yep.
all enough places that getting resonance. Something's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, definitely. And there's some interesting companies out there that can do audits for you so you can kind of like hone in on like what is appearing, who else is appearing, what are those long tail, keyword like search terms and keywords that people are utilizing, and then how can you leverage that in your content and how you present that.
Absolutely. And we are one of those companies. So, if you want to know what your search visibility looks like, give me a call. Anyway, back to you, Marlena. I could talk about brand awareness all day because I do think, not quite the 1960s Mad Men style of
Mhm.
like big blasts in terms of commercials. That's not happening, but the visibility that we're talking about in terms of consistency and being everywhere. Talk to me. You mentioned it a little bit, but I want to sort of dig in and press on the button and be annoying about it because it's just
Yeah.
so important and I don't think it's sunk in yet. The point of your messaging, and that your messaging not only has to be it has to be consistent and everywhere, but how do you know that you have the right messaging?
Mhm.
Because I feel like you have to have that dialed in so much more definitively before you go place it
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. It all starts with a process around forming a hypothesis, an informed hypothesis. And that's part of the work that I do. I sit down with my clients and we really go through what problem are they solving? What's the backstory? Who is it for? Is there a difference between the buyer and the user? Often there is, especially in the B2B space.
Such a
Um,
good point.
yeah, and so we basically go through multiple steps to kind of like define all of this, and then we come up with a messaging framework. And the messaging framework is basically entails like what are your value propositions, what are your key differentiators, what are your competitors saying, how do you differentiate from them, and who are we talking to, what makes you special to them, and what do we like, what are the pain points that we're really solving for. And once we put together all of that, then we kind of put on like a creative layer to it. So we come up with like the snazzy taglines, headlines, copy, the storytelling part, like the stuff that,
Mm-hmm.
like the script, right? And then you start running some controlled initial tests to get some market signal. And you want to see, some key things that that this is working is, are people are when you're on sales calls, are the prospects repeating back to you the same kind of language that you use to talk about yourself? That means that they're getting it and they're regurgitating back to you. That's an excellent sign. Another thing is, I think a lot of the founders I work with, they their aspirations for what they're building, and I'm really talking about like early stage companies who are still kind of like figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, their aspirations for what they're building is much further into the future than the current reality of what the state of the product is and where they are in terms of brand awareness and all the things that they've built on the marketing end. And I think you need someone to connect the dots between like where are you going with the company, but where you are right now and what you're actually able to offer and who's actually going to be interested in this moment in time. And so what I often see is, there's like a hesitancy to maybe get too specific in messaging because you don't want to turn away a potential prospect. And I say a good hero headline on your website, the first thing that you see when you land on your website, if a good number of people say, no, this isn't for me, and they close out, that's a good thing. That means that the right people are saying no. And what you want are the right people to say yes and actually enter your funnel so that you're not wasting your time and precious resources chasing down leads that are never going to convert. So that's another exercise that I kind of force the founders to go through, which is, can you write a headline that alienates or makes it clear to a significant portion of potential visitors that this solution is not for them. And so
Interesting.
all of these things can be measured obviously through web analytics, and then
Mm-hmm.
ultimately what conversations your sales team does end up having.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned that you would do some structured tests to understand, to start getting those signals. Is that
Yeah.
through paid? Is that through organic? How are you getting that message out there in a way that you can actually measure its impact?
Yeah, every company is different in terms of like what their sales motion looks like. So it I think like an optimal situation is you're running paid targeted advertising. So at this stage, after we're done with this, messaging framework, like we know who we want to go after. It's not just let's just blast a couple things out into the universe and see who comes
Mm-hmm.
in. No, we know we've made a educated hypotheses, and so we can target them really easily. It's They're tools at your dispense all over the place.
So many.
So you can start targeting with paid. You can start doing organic, but that takes a lot of nurturing. You need someone who's really
Hmm.
dedicated to those organic channels because it takes a lot of work. It takes engagement. You need to build community. You need to hype up current users, get them to tell their stories, see if you can create brand evangelists on your behalf. That requires a lot of effort. That's not just going to happen on its own. And then in your sales motion, if you do happen to have, like, maybe you have great investor relations and they're setting you up with incredible sales calls, you better be recording exactly how those calls are going and sitting down with all of the takeaways, objections, reasons that people say yes, reasons people say no, and start to aggregate that information so that we can go back and iterate on the messaging and see, like, okay, this moved the needle, this not so much. That's what you need to start doing. Like, that's the signal that you need to start collecting so that we know where to iterate and how, and just keep optimizing.
Sales calls are gold.
Yeah. And now
Absolutely.
everyone's actually recording and transcribing them, so there's absolutely no reason not to have that software in place, so you can collect that absolutely critical data so that we can analyze it and see, interesting, they hesitated here, they asked a lot of questions about this, or this other thing was a light bulb, like an aha moment on the call. Let's capitalize on that. Let's turn that thing and put that into the market facing messaging.
I have to say, I haven't been in the sales seat very long, but it has been the absolute best part is like really hearing where people are and what their struggles are and in
Yeah.
relation to what it is we're trying to do and how we can help them. The amount of content that comes out of that it is just so great. I totally
Hmm.
agree.
Hmm.
um let's talk about creative debt. You mentioned this in our prep call and it's just such a great term
Yeah.
for a founder who's just doing what we like to call random acts of marketing. What are the first three symptoms that they are over leveraged on that creative debt?
So, this is a term that I use because I do work with a lot of technical founders. I'm kind of an unusual marketer in that I have an engineering degree. So
Do
I definitely like, I think I get what a lot of these founders are trying to do and trying to say, and I'm pretty good at translating that into market speak. And so creative debt is, a term that I started using to help illustrate to founders that just like you don't like to accrue technical debt where you take shortcuts, you don't fully code something correctly, like that you're going to have to come back and patch something up or fix it or rewrite it or whatever the thing is. The same thing happens with on the marketing side and on your brand side. So when you skip ahead a couple of steps or you cut corners, inevitably you are going to have to come back and revisit that. And when you do, just like with technical debt, it's going to set you back time wise and it's going to be expensive. And you're going to create potentially a broken experience too. So a lot of folks, rightly so. I'm not saying that you need to have like $100,000 brand marketing project. That is not, I would never advise that to an early stage company. Doesn't make any sense because you're still iterating, you're still collecting market signal. You could be pivoting, changing stuff in 6 months. Most companies do. What you need is a playbook that prepares you so that you have something out there that looks good and sounds good, is cohesive, is differentiated, but you can keep building on it and iterating on it. And I think that that is a really special type of mindset and playbook. And you need someone with this particular eye. And that is exactly what the company advice, which is the company that I'm the co founder of, that's exactly what we do. We sit with our clients and we make sure that they have an iterative plan that they can build upon so that they're not starting from scratch when they do finally reach some kind of market traction and now they're like, oh great, now our logo looks like it's from 1998 and our website is crappy, all of these things need to be fixed, and completely overhauled. A full rebrand is very expensive. You're losing out on that brand awareness that you just have been building on. Like you're creating throwaway work, and that is not in this current time and age in startup world and startup mindsets, you
So
cannot
true.
be creating throwaway work. Everything should be iterated upon. So there are ways of doing all of these things, like I said, from brand to marketing, where you just do like just enough to like look, like I said, look good, sound good, look credible, have someone in an enterprise seat actually take you seriously without over investing, over indexing, freaking out your investors that you just like signed on this like huge agency to do something nonsensical and unnecessary at such an early stage. So yeah, those are some like the things like, that. And when we talk about like where you show up in that way, it's, what do your decks look like, your one pagers, what does your website look like? You want all of these things to look polished and professional, because the table stakes at this point, I mean, that's all it is, table stakes just
AI.
to look polished. And, we can get into this even some more. And I am totally going on a tangent now, but like the goalposts are just being moved up and
Yeah,
up and up.
constantly.
And what used to be able to pass to be able to Series B, you now have to start showing when you're a Series A company. And now I'm seeing seed companies that look like Series B companies. That's all intentional, and it's just the reality of the market that we're operating in. It's very different from 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
So much more competitive.
Mhm.
So much more competitive. And that polished and the help with um, you know, AI and things becoming less expensive and getting being able to do those things sooner is getting easier. So that's helpful, not helpful in so many ways because founders really have so much more important things to be focused on than
Yeah,
whether they have a pretty pitch deck, right? It's like,
definitely. And there's all this tooling is really helping commoditize and create access to things that strapped companies didn't have access to. At the same time, you do need to keep a human in the loop, because now what we're seeing is it's become so commoditized that now everyone's starting to sound the same.
mm-hmm.
And that first prompt that you gave me that just really made me laugh
Yep.
about, turning clarity into
Yep.
chaos, that is such an AI trope. And I think a lot of companies and founders don't see it yet because
Mm-hmm.
it is so
It's
new.
coming.
But those of us on the other end, like we are on that other end of the bell curve than a lot of these founders are, and
Mm-hmm.
we see it, we recognize it, we can sniff it out, and your buyers and the consumers are following. They're right behind
Mm-hmm.
us, and they're going to be able to sniff it out, and they're going to be able to tell that there's something artificial going on here, and like I don't know if this brand is really totally trustworthy.
Yeah, it's interesting because even I had I'm not, my background is in channel marketing, right? So SEO, digital ads is primarily where I like to play. And so I had
Hmm.
to step out of that for our own positioning and messaging last year to figure out how, okay, who are we and what do we do differently and why MKG marketing?
Yeah,
And I had help with AI because I had never done it before. And I was like, all right, AI can
yeah,
help walk me through this. But
yeah,
now I have to say, so much of what I uncovered about us, I'm now seeing like out in the world. And I'm
yeah,
like, oh, we were all doing that, right? So
yeah,
I figured out how to like, pull it back and hone it. I worked with a friend of mine who does positioning messaging on time, and she was like, here's what we need to do. And so she really helped me. But like, yeah, it's like when you buy a new car and you like didn't see the car on the road at all, and then you buy the car and now all of a sudden everybody has the car.
yeah. That's true.
That's what it felt like. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
words were dropping and
yeah,
things were saying, and this is what we're sticking to. So
yeah.
yeah, it's
I think
interesting and something
definitely.
to be careful of.
Yeah, I see a lot of chatter now about, people are kind of like ragging on like the cringy LinkedIn posts. And you can just tell like when something's been fully generated by ChatGPT, and it just like there's like this formula to it that's like kind of
Yeah.
cringy. And if you're able to pick up on that on LinkedIn, I'm telling you, people are gonna be able to pick it up on your website.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Um, you mentioned you have an engineering degree. And so, how does a systems thinking approach change the way you build a messaging framework compared to a traditional creative agency?
Yeah. I'm very data focused. I like to start on a quantitative level and then build on the qualitative level. I think that that's kind of an interesting approach in that I don't come in there like guns firing with hot, crazy, cool, sexy ideas. I like to look at all the data. I like to really listen to the team. Everybody on the team has a unique perspective that they're able to bring about the product, the service, the company. And I take all of that, I synthesize it, and then we kind of lay down, like I said, that messaging framework. Like, what are the ground rules about like what are we, who are we, for who, etc. And then that for me is like when the magic really happens, where like that creative level comes in. And that's when, I can start to create the spicy kind of, headlines, taglines, whatever, and make you like look and sound really sexy. But I think having one senior person look at this from top to bottom, someone who's done this multiple times, someone who has like a musician has like a fine-tuned ear for certain notes,
Mhm.
like that is what I am to this space. I have the ear, and I all I have to do is just like go through the notes a couple of times, and then we're going to be able to create like a really great, masterpiece together. I have been on the agency side. I loved working in agency. I am not knocking agencies whatsoever. But typically senior salespeople come in, they sell the deal, gets handed off to junior people to execute on it, and I think sometimes you become a client of a machine that has really tight margins and is trying to produce. Whereas if you work with like maybe like a fractional executive, you're getting more dedicated, more bespoke, more white glove and custom solutions, because I'm right there, I'm sitting there at the table with you listening and embedded in your team throughout this entire engagement. And I'm not only embedded, but I'm also able to sit there as an objective new person who can kind of maybe challenge some assumptions or help the team come to a consensus. Because oftentimes you start to all kind of evolve in your own ways. And now the CTO has a different idea than the CEO, and the head of product has a different idea than the head of sales. And I can be that forcing function that forces all of everybody to sit down and be like, all right, let's focus on this thing. Let's try it out. Let's test it out. And then we'll iterate.
I love that. I mean, I couldn't agree more. As an agency, have been fighting that since day one in terms of who we hire and making sure that they have 10 years plus of experience and that it's not handed off to a junior team. But I also found that that marketing leader is so crucial, and we actually like refuse to work directly with founders because having that marketing lead is just it's
Yeah.
just a different it is that bridge
Hmm.
between the the agency and the founder in a way that you can speak founder.
Totally.
You have to have that skill set. It is a whole different shift of like how you explain. And I love how you've adopted it with your engineering background. Like I think that's and the creative debt. That's absolutely brilliant. And I couldn't agree more of like the importance of having that marketing insight in the room and being able to communicate back and forth between these two functions to make sure everybody's aligned in a
Yep.
way that both sides understand. So helpful,
Definitely.
so
Yeah.
helpful.
And even like back to that engineering mindset too, the other thing that we offer is a lot of laying down the groundwork for go to market systems. So what does that mean? Okay, you can run all these campaigns. You can announce a raise. You can announce launch a new product. How are you collecting that data? Do you have a CRM in place? Is the CRM connected correctly to your website? Are you like, there's so much technical stuff that actually goes on that folks also never think
Mm-hmm.
about. And if you get a HubSpot account, did you negotiate the right deal, the right package? It's going to take you probably a month to fully get it all set up. There's a lot in there. There's a lot of bells and whistles. Um, you need someone in there setting that up, and it's not just about pumping out pretty ads or website copy. It's really getting those fundamental systems up and running, because otherwise, if you're just collecting all of your data in a spreadsheet, like, you are in for a world of pain in a couple of months when you need to start figuring out, okay, what actually worked, how do we
Mm-hmm.
replicate this, and how do I
Mm-hmm.
hire someone to take this over, because a credible marketing person is going to look at this, half-ass system and be like, no, thank you. I would rather step into a company that was doing this correctly, a long time ago. I don't want to sit here and clean up for 3 months.
Absolutely. HubSpot is a beast.
A
And
beast. And everyone's
if
like, oh, let's just go get HubSpot. I'm like, you realize that there's a lot more involved than just getting
getting
HubSpot.
HubSpot,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, where leads go to die if you don't do it correctly.
Yeah.
Um, but let's talk about this a little bit because one of my questions here is about building a lightweight website to test marketing signals. Obviously, you
Mhm.
need to have a CRM to know what those signals even are. What are
Yep.
the 5 must-have pages that provide actual data, and what can and can't we ignore in that?
Yeah. I mean, back to the startup playbook that we work with, we tell folks we're building between 5 and 7 pages. And they're like, oh, what? No way. We need 18. No, you don't. That's where, you talked about leads going to die in HubSpot. If you have 18 pages on your website, that's where traffic goes to die too. You need a compelling homepage. First of all, sorry, let me back up. We start with a sitemap and we show you a sitemap so that you can see exactly like navigationally, like what is the information hierarchy going to look like and what pages connect to what and what sections talk to which sections so that there's a cohesive path for someone to go through your website. This is not an online brochure. This is a informational gateway so that folks can gather what it is that you do, be and find it compelling enough that they actually submit the contact us form. So we start with a compelling homepage with sections that link to the rest of the pages. Definitely a page like about how it works, like what is this thing and how does it work. Then who is it for. Here's, this is an area that we also have to exercise restraint where you are targeting 1 to 2, maybe 3 buyer personas, not 5, not 10, not endless. Really get really specific because, again, remember what I said at the top of the hour, which is like you want the right people to say yes and the right people to say no. Um, so we have the homepage, we have how it works, we have who it's for, we have an about us page. So who are you as a company, your mission, your vision, your team, investments, etc. Whatever it is that you want to share. Often this is like where your careers, a link to your careers page also exists, and then a blog somewhere, some kind of repository for information that you need to have a really great strategy around the schema, how it's laid out, what information is in there, how often it's being updated, all of it, which is critically important for GEO now.
Mm-hmm.
Now we started building a separate FAQs page. We have FAQs on every page, but we also started building separate FAQ pages if it's right for the right company, because we're learning that LLMs really love FAQs. This is
Yes,
like
they do.
very scrapable content. And then a good contact us page. So that's, by my count, I think
All
7
you need.
pages right there. And that's really all you need. There is no reason to have a page per feature, a page per product. That is not necessary when you're early stage. That said, when you are running your tests and you do have launches, spin out landing pages. Like those are great testing and learning environments that don't require heavy resources to update your whole website. That's not necessary unless you like are radically pivoting. Um,
Yep.
in which case, all of it should be done cohesively, all in one go, not just overhauling one page. I'm a big proponent of spinning out landing pages. Very easy to do in HubSpot or on Webflow, which my agency is a certified Webflow partner. And so you can leverage Webflow, whatever platform really, but spin out those landing pages to run tests and glean some
Mm-hmm.
very specific learnings.
Yeah, I love that. Testing and learning all the time, and I agree, dude. I have one client that only has a single landing page, and
Nice.
because
And
we
that's
just don't
something,
need that many leads, and so we get
sometimes
two
that's
leads
all
a
you need.
week, and we're
Yeah.
like, that's all we need right now. He's
Yep.
like, please don't give me more than 2. This is great. This is all I need. It's like, great. It's gonna do its thing,
That's
and we'll
awesome.
build landing pages. Once we get more into the blog and all of that and the resources stuff when it comes. But yeah, for right now, this is great.
Yeah.
Uh, let's talk about AI. I mean, we've been dancing around it a bit here, but let's just get into it. You
Mhm.
said it's a silent partner, but commoditizing creative. What is one of the Um, wh- what's one aspect of marketing you don't think AI should touch?
Well,
Or do you think it's helpful everywhere? Tell me
I
more.
think it's generally pretty helpful if, and I'm not the first person to say this. A lot of people say this, like treating it as like a very entry level employee. You know, would you allow an entry level employee to write your whole website? No. So why are you letting AI do it? It's beyond me. Okay. Other than like saving costs, but I don't know if you're actually going to net the results that you need. Um, I think it's good as a jumping off point, but again, you need that human in the loop, someone with the tuned ear that can take and really synthesize all the information that they gathered from your team to turn into something really compelling. Um, at this stage, humans are still selling to humans. I know that we're going toward a future where agents are going to be selling to agents. And, I think we've all seen like the
Wild.
different, like the robocalls where you just have agents
Mm-hmm.
talking to each other and they're all AI and they're like scheduling and stuff. It's wild. And I know that that is coming. Let's do this interview, in a couple years when that's the case, because I'm sure I'll have a completely different take. But at this point, a human being is making the purchase decision, even if ChatGPT, LLMs, AI are part of the process and are part of aiding the human being. Um, you still need to keep a human in the loop. But yeah, silent partner all the way in terms of creating frameworks, outlines, ideas. But I really think that when it comes down to putting pen to paper, you should have a human being doing it.
Yeah. I think AI is actually, I feel like I'm fighting with it right now in terms of writing because it's doing all this really weird stuff like
Yeah,
putting words in quotes and jargon. Oh my gosh, it's worse than a marketer from the early 2000s when it comes to
yeah,
making up words for things.
yeah,
Like it just stop,
yeah.
please. Yeah,
I know. I feel like we
it'd be
all thought it
faster for
was
me to just write it.
there was something about it that felt so magical like 2 years ago, and now I agree with you. I'm getting more and more frustrated with it where I'm like, "No, this is crazy." And also, where did you come up with this? And you really have to yell at it. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't want to yell at an intern, but sometimes I feel like I have to yell at
I'm feeling you.
and be like, where did you come up with this? So I think you really need to be really good at prompt writing and really good at knowing the guardrails. Otherwise, it's just going to free fall. And I think that's part
Yeah,
of like bringing in that's why I don't think marketing people are going to be replaced, because you still need someone who can tell the machine what to do. And I don't think that it
yeah.
knows right now.
It does not. It
Yeah.
does not. No, it's bad. Um, I could talk about this all day. I'm going to keep moving. When founders hire a big brand enterprise marketer and it
Oh,
fails, what are
yeah.
two nitty gritty skills a marketing leader must have if they're going to survive the startup mindset versus the
Yeah.
enterprise one?
I think sometimes what I see is, look, you want to hire people who are successful and are going to bring a playbook that is going to bring success to your company. Of course. However, I think that there needs to be a balance between having, star heart eyes for like a sexy big brand and actually knowing, can this person and will this person and does this person want to roll up their sleeves and really execute. And I think someone who has not executed in a long time and has had the benefit of relying on a very well resourced team will often struggle starting from scratch again. And I've interviewed a lot of people like this who, they've become disenchanted with corporate. They want to go back to something scrappy. They're excited about that. They want to build something. But at the end of the day, they don't want to build HubSpot from scratch. They don't want to build a lot of these like really fundamental non-sexy things from scratch. They want to launch that into space and they want to, see what the results are and be excited about the, campaign success. But I don't think a lot of those folks have been able to flex that muscle of actually getting down to the nitty-gritty into the weeds. I am really speaking in broad strokes, and again, I'm not trying to offend anyone at all. This is just from my experience. I'm also ex
Mhm.
corporate, but I was corporate during the economic downturn of 2008. So even though I was corporate, I was pretty much in the weeds because I walked in
Mhm.
2 days after my start date, and, like, my entire cubicle city was decimated, empty. I was the only person there, freshly out of college. So I had to learn how to do a lot of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I wasn't just like a cog. I was we still had client work and we still, like, needed
Yeah.
people bodies to do it, but I was just like this little 22-year-old just being like, "Ah, I figure you out."
Same.
Um, Again, I'm
Same.
not trying to say I'm, like, special, by any means, and everyone has their own experiences. And there's a lot that I was able to learn in this corporate environment that I was able to bring effectively to a startup, but I had to build a different playbook completely. And I think that that's something
Mhm.
that you just kind of like have to hone in on when you're interviewing folks like this. And also, as a marketer, you really have to ask yourself like the real soul searching questions of like, do I really want to start from scratch here again? Do I really want to do something that an entry level person would be doing? If the answer is yes, all right, go for it, go startup. But if the answer is like, then maybe step into a later stage company, a later stage startup.
Yeah.
Maybe make sure that there's real PMF, real product market fit with this company that you're interviewing with. You're just going to be up against a lot of challenges that maybe you're not used to, and I don't think it's going to be fully enjoyable if you're rewriting your own playbook that you've mastered, over the course of your career.
Yeah, I would say it's the difference between, being that early market hire who has to do a lot of things in terms of being in the weeds and in
Mm,
contact with the CRM, in contact with the campaigns, in contact with the website, versus the enterprise level of building the team who's going to go do all that, right? So that's really
yeah.
the big shift. Oh my gosh, Marlena, I could talk to you all day. I still have I've skipped over questions. I was like, oh, but that's going. Oh, but that's going. Clearly, I'm gonna have to have you back on. But before we go, for our founders, one last piece of advice in terms of helping them. We've covered the danger of creative debt and AI slap. What's one single actionable step a founder in the growth valley can do today to get their marketing back on track?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the risk of sounding overly promotional, um, one thing that you can do that is free right now is you can go to our website, which is thecompanyadvice.com. We have a tool on there called the Friction Finder, and you just fill out a couple of questions on there, like a little Quizlet, and it'll help show, shine a light on points of friction that you have in your marketing and product experience. And if you notice these moments of friction, emerge and you're like, oh man, yeah, you're right, I need to like hone in on this, like call us up and we'll do a little diagnostic for you and we can figure out if there's something that we can work on together. If that feels like too tall of an ask, then I recommend doing the exercise that I talked about a few minutes ago, which is, can you sit down and rewrite your company's website headline and make it a headline that intentionally excludes someone, and see if you can run with that and just see like what
I'm gonna go do
happens.
that.
Yeah. Like, exclude
That's
someone on
really good.
purpose. It's
Yeah.
a little bit of a backwards way of thinking about it when you're trying to
Mhm.
generate revenue, uh,
Mhm.
and, counterintuitively, you are decreasing your funnel by doing that, but hopefully you're increasing the quality, and that's what we want. So I think that
Absolutely.
that could be another exercise that everyone can do. You can go do that with your team right now once you hang up from this call, and see what happens. And in that case, also reach out to me at the company advice because I'd love to hear what happened. I love these kinds of experiments and the stories that come along with them. So in any way, get in touch.
Absolutely. Marlena's contact details are in the invite on LinkedIn or in the show notes of YouTube. Be sure to check that out. Marlena, I thank you so much. I am a firm believer in our marketing leaders, and the fractional world is alive, and I am here for it. So thank you so much for
Definitely.
joining me and for sharing so much wisdom with us.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
having me, Carrie. Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode is brought to you by MKG Marketing, the digital marketing agency that helps you get visible across all those lovely channels that Marlena mentioned. Visibility is a big thing now, and we're here to help. You can DM me, and we will get you back on track next week. See you all then.